Hey, Joe, my name is Michael Wall. I'm a student at Wentworth Institute of Technology. And your name is Joe Goveia.
Yeah.
All right. And you were in which war?
World War II.
World War II. Okay.
The only one.
Yeah.
No.
I have a question. The first thing I want to do is, what we've asked everybody, when you joined the military, did you voluntarily join, or was it a draft situation for you?
A draft situation, definitely.
And how old were you when you were drafted?
20, I guess. Yeah, 20.
And when you were
No,
drafted,
correction, 21, because it was that October. 21. I just turned 21.
and when you get drafted, is it automatic that people get pushed into the Army? Because I've heard a couple of guys today say that they initially go to the Army, but then they say we need people for this branch and this branch.
At that time, you had a choice when it first started.
Okay.
Can I give a little history because it's important?
Yeah, you can give anything you want to give me. I'm willing to take.
I think it's important to know why it all happened. 16 million guys were involved, and perhaps a couple 100,000 were actually in the military. The rest were all draftees.
Mm-hmm.
And in the beginning, you had a choice in 1940. If you get drafted, you go Navy, Marines, first degree Marines, or the Army. I picked the Navy since I was already a merchant marine radio operator.
Okay.
Now, this is important. The merchant marine, I was treated as an officer, white uniform, epaulets, the whole works. Shared a cabin with another radio operator, nice meals, making $135 a month in found. Found means no room aboard. Joined the Navy to prevent myself from being dragged into the Army. And the Navy was hard up for radio operators, so I could join as a senior first class instead of an apprentice student.
Mm-hmm.
Apprentice student got $20 a month. I went for $56 a month. Remember, $56 a month in found. And no two men to a cabin, 20 or 30 to a cabin. Compartment rather.
Big difference.
Big difference. So the idea was that I would sign up for a year, 4 months of school, and 8 months of sea duty. Sea duty hours, so that would be a snap. 4 months of school, I'd already been to a radio school, that would be a snap. So I went in. Let's see, I signed up November 1st of 1940. And I think I went in somewhere around the 23rd, perhaps a little earlier, I forgot. A long time ago. So I went to radio school 4 months, and they had me teaching code because I had the experience. So after 4 months, I got raised to radio in third class, and they gave us a choice if we were in the first 5, Atlantic or Pacific. Well, I'd already seen the dirty green water of Atlantic, so I thought the blue Pacific would be nice. So we 400 new troop train, got into San Diego, beautiful place, San Diego. Orange blossoms out, very nice. And at that time, Roosevelt had given 50 old age destroyers to England before the war started. So I and a lot of others got set to cleaning up these dirty old destroyers. A filthy job. We went up to Dungarees every day. But the captain of the base fed the best food around. So from there, then I went out on a Navy tanker for transport up to Bremerton, Washington, on the battleship California.
Mm-hmm.
So from there to San Francisco for refitting and over to Hawaii. And there it was. So you want me to start with what happened?
Yeah. Because we've got when you started, we know that you were a radio operator, and so you get in, you start refitting ships, and now you're in Hawaii, Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, in USS California, which was called BB-44, the designation. It was an old ship, just my age. Commissioned in 1919, I was born in 1919.
So when you're in Pearl Harbor, what are your duties there? Are you?
I was a radio operator.
So you're on the base and you're listening to.
I wasn't on the base, I was aboard ship.
So you're on the ship and you're still listening to radio traffic.
Oh, definitely, every day. Usual watch is 4 on, 8 off for everybody. That broke it up, so it was a 2-4. And being a newcomer, I got the mid-watch, which is 12 midnight to 4 in the morning.
And so what would be going on? What would you be listening to?
Well, traffic, we'd send traffic from the ship to Washington, usually through, relaying through the 50,000 watt transmitters in either Honolulu or San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
And well, to start off, there were 4 battleship divisions of 3 battleships each out in Pearl Harbor, and Roosevelt transferred 1 battleship, 3 battleships, back to the Atlantic.
Mm-hmm.
So that left, and what happened, the commander of the battle force, which was the admiral in charge of the battleships, was on the New Mexico, but that was transferred so they came aboard the California, which made life miserable for the rest of the crew. No, really, it's bad enough to have a captain kicking you around, but to have a vice admiral, which is 3 stripes admiral with a big broad band and 3 stripes.
What kind of problems were you running into during this?
Well, one big problem, the admiral decided to have ship inspection. He'll inspect the crew, you line up, and he comes around, looks at you, yeoman walks behind him with a clipboard and so forth. When he got to me, he couldn't see my undershirt, so he yanked the neckerchief up, almost hanged me so he could see him. I thought, they pay this guy that kind of money to do this? Got me very annoyed.
It's making me a little annoyed. I wasn't there.
No, discipline was tough on that ship.
Well, do you think when you're going through your early training, what was boot camp like for you? What were the drill instructors like? What kind of an atmosphere did they put you in?
Well, it was.
Were they harsh?
Yeah, I did get annoyed when I was forced to make a bed for an ensign. Can you imagine me, radio operator, doing that? I was very annoyed. And the guy fenced it and said, "Don't worry about it. We're going to have civilians do this," which was good.
Because boot camp now is different. They've now made the changes that drill instructors cannot yell.
Oh, well,
They can't yell anymore because it hurts some of the soldiers' feelings.
Well, it was, yeah. Enlisted men were treated as stupid, perhaps, by some of the officers. When the officers got to be lieutenant commander, they mellowed somewhat. But when they were ensigns, especially the ones that came from military academies down south, they like to throw their way around.
Do you feel it was because of the ages of some of the newly enlisted men, Oren?
No.
Just because you were...
Just discipline. It's typical Navy discipline, which is true everywhere.
Think it's a good thing for them? Do you think it's good for them to do it that way? Do you think it helps build discipline by being forceful and...
No, I think it antagonizes people. Well, as an example of this bit of the Southern military types, liberty is a pretty precious commodity. You try to get it off the ship as fast as you can. So I went up one day to catch the Liberty boat at 8. The ensign sent me back to shine my shoes. Well, Navy shoes didn't take a spit shine like the Marines. 4 times that happened, and finally I got off because his watch got transferred. He went off watch. That's the only way. I was hoping the guy would end up in the bottom of the Pacific, but he survived to become a lieutenant commander. I mean, you get to hate these people. Not all of them. I worked with some fine officers in enlisted men.
Sometimes just maybe on an ego trip?
A lot of them are,
They have a lot of arrogance because of their rank.
Hmm?
Do they seem to have a lot of arrogance because of their
Some of
rank?
them do, most of them are pretty good. But, you just hate to be pushed around, that's all.
So, I didn't mean to jump back, but,
Yeah, go
so,
ahead.
back up to speed, now you're stationed at Pearl Harbor, you're your radio operator, you're taking traffic, you're bringing it across
Yeah.
from Hawaii to California to DC, and did you guys hear about the Japanese and their planning? I mean, did you ever catch any of that kind of information?
No, because unless you went ashore and bought a newspaper, but up to ship there wasn't much.
Only what the military would send by.
Yeah, which I don't recall at all. But, this wonderful government of ours likes to keep secrets. They don't tell the public what's going on. And we were set up at Pearl Harbor, as you probably have heard.
Well, because, again, the reason why we're doing this is because we want to try to see you know, we know what we read in history books.
Yeah.
And it's always given a certain twist, you know? And we're trying to find out, if you're in Pearl Harbor, you are seeing what was going on, you're listening to what's going on in the base, you are getting information that we may not ever get to hear or see. And you're sitting there, we know that December 7th is coming up. What type of atmosphere is going on there? What is, you know, what do you see going on? I mean, because, you know, we know that we're kind of putting a little bit of pressure on Japan, and, you know.
At that time, we were not really before Pearl Harbor. Roosevelt put the embargo on, which antagonized the Japanese, and I presume led them to attack. But each ship was sent back to the States for refit and repair.
Mm-hmm.
And the California went back in November of 1941, or October, I forget which. It came back in November. And we went to the Bremerton shipyard where everybody went over the side, bolster chairs to scrape and so forth and paint. Then down to San Francisco for some more of it and other repairs, and then back to Pearl Harbor, which I don't think we had any indication of war. Kimmel and Schwartz had been advised of the possibility, but they were worried about sabotage. In other words, nobody told them there was going to be an attack. So the Army lined up all its planes, which on that particular day, the Navy, we didn't do much. We just had more drills. Until December 7th. I can start on that.
Yeah, and what happened there? I mean, what were you doing that day?
December 7th?
Yeah. If you
I was very lucky. I had liberty for both Saturday and Sunday. That's unusual, but they worked it out so that occasionally we got that. So my liberty days, like Saturday, I spent at Waikiki Beach swimming, and then have a decent meal at supper time, stuffed a black cat buffet for a beer, whatever. But that was an open bar. You know, you just sat around, wide open. And then you grab either a bus to go back, or if you're lucky, you got a cab. In fact, the cabs were monopolized by the officers, and somebody on the base evidently set the rule that they had to share with enlisted men. At one time, I get in the car with an officer, and I wasn't drunk or anything else. We sat so far away from him. I don't know if he was afraid I was going to attack him or not, but that's the attitude that they had toward us. So, as I said, I went ashore Saturday. I was planning to go ashore Sunday, so dressed in my whites, about 5 minutes of 8, 7:55, and over the horn, the loudspeaker system, somebody blows the whistle and bellows and sirens and so forth. And they said, all unengaged, air raid, all unengaged personnel seek shelter. And I thought, this is a hell of a time for the captain pulling in, read the drill. And we thought, so that's what it was. And then about 5 minutes later, a few minutes later, because the attack started at 7:55, the sirens blew and the boatswain's pipe whistled, bells, sirens, and everything else. And they sounded general chorus.
I think that's just coinciding with the air raid drill.
Yeah, sounded good. So my battle station's up in the conning tower, up on the boat deck. But before I could get up there, I had to get down to the radio room, which is on platform. You know, a platform is a partial deck. You can't go up and down the ship because the platform isolates it. So I had to get down there, grab my code book, because we used a code book, and my earphones. Had to hide the earphones, because if you left them up in the conning tower, somebody'd swipe them. And that was great. And by the time I started to climb back out, the hatch had been closed. I had to climb through a manhole with the thing, which was tough when you're short. You have to reach up through. And then I started to climb the ladder to the boat deck, and the ship, I heard a loud bang, and the ship sort of jumped about 6 inches, which of course it didn't probably. And I went on up. The result, we got hit with 2 torpedoes and a bomb and a near-miss bomb. And the torpedoes hit on the port side, damaged the radio room, and of course water started flowing in all the time. saw some of the torpedo planes coming from the sub-base side over the water, which is open. 13 torpedoes were fired at the Oklahoma. 12 of them hit it, and it listed and sank, rose up in about 20 minutes. And I was up 60 feet, and I saw that. I got frightened, to say the least. But we were listing about 16 degrees because the water's soaking in. And someone gave the order to counter flood, which they flood the starboard side, so it came up to 8 degrees, and that's where it sank. As I said, the torpedo bombers came first, then we had dive bombers, high altitude bombers, and all that time, for the 2 hours, it was constant strafing by the Jap Zeros. And I had to go out on the open deck, so that scared him of me.
And you weren't injured?
Oh, no, I figured I can't. Let's see, how do I start this? The radio gang had 35 operators. 12 of them were killed, 6 were wounded. And on the California, or rather, at Pearl Harbor, 15 medals of honor were awarded. 4 of them on the California, which was the highest award of any group during the war. 3 of the men that got it died, only 1 survived. The chief that I worked for, the chief radio man that I worked for, at 28 years in the Navy, going to retire in 2 years, he got killed. He was he stayed down below and organized ammunition parties because the power went out, of course, except for bad emergency lights. So they had to hoist the ammunition up by hand, and for the 3-inch anti-aircraft guns, incidentally, those take 2 men to run, one to train it back and forth, one to elevate. Can you imagine trying to coordinate it against a plane?
Is it the thing with the big wheels on the side?
Yeah, you've seen them, probably pictures.
Yeah.
So he helped organize that. After he died, they awarded him a raising grade to warrant, I guess, helps his family. But the California shot down 2 planes and a possible other one, so we got credit for that.
So after all this is going on, after the bombing stuff, what happens with you?
Well,
I can imagine. All the ships are, a lot of the ships are damaged and sinking or sunk.
Yeah, about 5 of them I think sunk, and some were damaged. I can list them off in a moment. Oh yeah, during the 2 hours, it was a lull about 9 o'clock when the first group of planes went back, and then when they came back with another group, I don't know, but it continued. I jumped overboard at 10 minutes after 10 and swam ashore about 300 feet. Dirty, filthy water.
The oil and
Yeah, and human excrement, because they dumped their heads over the side. Filthy harbor. 10, yeah. Oh, I was going to list the ships. Yeah. All right, we were the first in line for California, and then behind us were, I think, the Oklahoma and the Tennessee. The Oklahoma rolled over. It didn't roll over completely. It rolled over so the mast hit the bottom. And I could see the propeller. And during the attack, they had been on there trying to rescue the others, which took a lot of guts, I think. Being strafed.
Yeah, straight from the road.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was the Tennessee, Oklahoma, then the West Virginia and the Maryland on the inboard side tied to the island. The others are tied to the other ship. There are 2 ships abreast. And I think the Arizona was in there, and the Nevada, the tail end. Oh, during the attack, the Nevada went underway, but all the planes started hitting it. So at the beach, they had a beach. In other words, if they sank it in the harbor, nobody would get out. Another funny thing, too, American pilots, when they attack, have a choice, I guess. But the Japanese went after the battleships strictly, a few destroyers, but it was strictly the battleships. And the fuel tanks had about 20 fuel tanks. If one of the units had sense enough to hit the fuel tanks, the fleet would never have gotten out. There's no fuel. It would take weeks to get stuff, but they didn't, fortunately. Oh yes, I forgot, the Pennsylvania was in the dry dock, but it got hit also. So after the attack, a couple of us were in a bomb crater, and that's where we spent the night. I pulled a blanket off a dead body. I figured I needed more than he did. And the three of us stayed there the next day. And oh yes, the only water available was from the officers' swimming pool. So they boiled water from the swimming pool to make coffee. Supper that night was a slice of bread with Spam smeared over it. So, you like Spam? That's all right.
Big in Hawaii, big in
Yeah,
Hawaii.
yeah.
That Reese's peanut butter cups.
Yeah, but the next day, somebody in a pickup truck came around looking for radio operators, so being patriotic, I hopped aboard the pickup truck. But I didn't get sent to a ship. I went over to the subbase. Was assigned to the Pennsylvania, but I, of course, couldn't be pulled to Pennsylvania. But the subbase, the Pennsylvania had Sink Pack, Commander-in-Chief of the Pacific Fleet, so we got assigned to that, and a couple of other operators. So the first night, we slept on a blanket in the car in a passageway, the concrete floor. And then finally, they found a spot for me on the submarine tender called the Pigeons. I got the impression the guys on board that ship didn't welcome us because they crowded them. So there I stayed for a while.
How long were you in Pearl Harbor for? For the total, like your total station time?
Oh, I was lucky enough. Oh, can I brag a little bit?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can brag until I run out of tape.
No, another radio operator and myself must have done something right, because we got raised in grade from third class to second class, which is good because that means $12 more a month, which means a couple more decent meals on the beach. And then, let's see, I think it was February, an exam was given to send one man back to Washington for the technical school. They call it radio materiel school. That's a French term, I don't know why. But I was fortunate enough to come out on top and I went back. And that was the end of my time in the Pacific. I was very, very lucky. That's the only battle I was ever in.
It seemed to be a pretty big one.
Yeah, it was, yeah. It was scary. But I'll mention now the fact that the Navy, while I was in the Navy, we couldn't have cameras aboard. The Army could. The Army, after Pearl Harbor, was allowed to send letters, telegrams, anything back to the families. We were not in the Navy. They gave us a little postcard. On the back was, I am wounded, I am well. The letter follows. Nothing for I'm dead. But let's see, I signed my card on December 16. The Navy census stamped it December 19. My family got it, I think, in January of 1942. It's January 26. A month and a half before anybody knew if I was dead or alive. Wonderful government we have.
Well, it's interesting. When you say an interesting government that we have, with what you know from being in the military before, how do you see things now? Because you've been in one of the biggest attacks that we can remember, Dave Infantry around. How do you see things now?
Well,
with regards to like the military, how things are running?
You asked the other man about the age at which we should be drafted.
Mm-hmm.
At the time of World War II, the draft started 18 to 35. And I forgot to mention, in I think January of, December 6th of 1946, a year after the war started, the Navy finally released the final figures on the number of ships sunk. The information that would get back to the States after the attack.
It took that long to get...
Yeah, well, Roosevelt mentioned some damaged ships, but not the extent, not the number sunk and so forth. And the number of killed were 3,000, with a couple of thousand wounded. The actual figure was 2,409 and 1,138 wounded, most of them Navy men. And at that, in December 6th, that Congress also, Roosevelt changed the draft law to include men up to 45, and also you could no longer choose whether to go in the Army, Marines, or Navy, or the Army. They automatically graduate into the Army. That's probably where they...
Yeah, because I know that I was talking to one of my buddies, and he's going to be 68 this Christmas. And he said that when they came for the war, that they were going to do the draft, and he decided he joined first because he wanted to go into the Marines, and if he was drafted, they were going to make him go into the Army. And that's was just sticking in my head when I was talking about it.
That's the same way I chose that. And of course, the year of active duty and 3 years of reserve would have been a snap. Unfortunately, it ended up as 5 years and 23 days. Oh, let's talk about discharge.
Well, so you were in the Navy for 5 years and
23 days.
23 days.
And the Atlantic Water ended, I think, in April. And they were going to ship some of those guys to the Pacific. I had a friend who was there. He was really ripping them. They were shipping them back to the Pacific. But Hiroshima and Nagasaki happened, and the war ended very rapidly. So I should have been discharged because my time was up. But no, they decided that essential personnel could be kept for 4 months, 120 days. And naturally, I was essential, being a radio operator. The Navy didn't want to lose it. By that time, I had made chief, which was good. I got out of the monkey suit. They were real uniform. But one of the things was they had a point system to discharge. And what annoyed me is that a life was worth 20 points, 20 months of sea duty. Can you imagine? Because the Navy wanted to get rid of subsistence to pay the families. That's all I could figure. But I finally get out November 23rd. Back I came. So.
So overall, would you say that your experience in the Navy was good for you or bad for you?
It wasn't good for me. It wasn't bad either, but it wasn't good. I did get that one year of, well, it was 9 months of radio school in the Navy. It wasn't very good. I still have the slide where we have to buy it, which is about 65 years old, I guess, by now.
Well, yeah, we had a gentleman today who had a handwritten note to his dad. It was 6 pages long from 1944, still in the same notepad.
Oh, my God. Survived all it. Well,
I mean, and it's in perfect condition. It looked like he bought the notebook this afternoon and just started writing down notes.
Yeah, it didn't fade out. That's
No,
so
it's great, and you know those are some of the things that those things, your stories, some of the written things. These are things that we can't get.
No, yeah,
you know, and we want to make sure that we take this information and we're going to leave copies of it here,
yeah.
so people can come back because they'll be like, you know what, maybe I was through Pearl Harbor or I knew a guy there, and learn what you were doing there versus him, and just get the stories that we can't get somewhere else.
That's why I think it's important that, well, that's why I mentioned the start of the war with Hitler attacking and then with that coming over in September. Or did I say that?
Now, do you think that Americans now are more supportive of those in service now than they were before? We had a couple of guys who were from Korea who said that it really wasn't they didn't really have protests and things back then.
A lot of people didn't even notice that they were
Yeah,
gone.
they were even gone on military service.
Well, I had a friend became a pilot, a very good friend I met in 1939, that became a pilot in the Army Air Force. And he did his time, he was a fighter pilot, and they called him back for the Korean War. And John Kent, you spoke to before.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about, yeah.
He was pulled back, and I think that's to improve.
Well, they're talking about doing it now. They're talking about bringing back some reservists who are not supposed to go back, and now they want to bring them back sooner because there's supposed to be like a 2-month break or something, and they're going to bring them back early because they need people over there.
Well, that's why this Iraq war is a lousy war, because it was unnecessary and useless. He hasn't found anything, hasn't done anything. The same way with Afghanistan. a lot of guys being killed uselessly. And people support the truth, but not the people that send them there. At least that's the way I feel.
Right,
Yes.
yeah, we were talking about that.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the main consensus, that when you're here, and you're upstairs and you're talking with the other guys from different branches and different wars, do you find that you're all agreeing on the same point of view, that, say, the war in Iraq today is not a good war that we should be in, that we should not be there? Do you find that, or do you have a few guys say that we should be?
I haven't done much talking, no. My son spent, well, essentially, I have a brother who spent 3 years in Asia in the Korean War. My son spent 2.5 years in Vietnam without a break. That's unusual.
Usually it's a 12-month tour duty, right? In Vietnam, was that how long it was?
Yeah, something like that, but he did 2.5 years. I have a nephew that's a triple amputee because of Vietnam. I had another nephew that went to Grenada when the actor became president, meaning Reagan.
Reagan, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The Grenada Medical School incident?
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what it was, right?
Yeah, well, Reagan started that war supposedly to protect the students. Actually, it was to protect the rich Americans that lived there and the ones that summited there. At least that's my opinion. I don't have too much respect for presidents that ship us off to be killed.
And that's a very important statement. I like that.
Yeah, well, I like it. In fact, my wife gets annoyed when I call Bush killer Bush. What the hell?
He's been called other things too.
Yeah. No, but that's the way I feel about it, because...
Let me ask you this: if you're upstairs and since you don't talk as much, but you're listening, I imagine.
Yeah, I have.
Do you find a lot of people are for or against the Iraq War and for or against George Bush?
I think most of them are against Bush and the war.
Okay.
But, what are there? Over 2,500 dead now?
Yeah, I think the number's gone up.
But even worse is 20,000 wounded, And a lot of amputees, which you never had in World War II, the guys died instead of being...
Right, coming back and having the problem.
But that's World War II, there were 405,000 killed, 680,000 dead. That's not a very big ratio, less than 2 to 1. In this war, it's 20,000 to 10 to 1. That's a lot of wounded people.
And you know what's funny? In all of the articles I've read, any newscasts I've ever heard or watched, you're the first person to bring it up and put it in those terms. You know, and you know what it is? Because I think people get so berated with information that sometimes it may have been mentioned, but so quickly because they don't want a lot of people to hear it.
That's true, yeah.
You know?
Well, there's too much government secrecy, and the presidents have too much power. No president should be allowed to get us into a war the way it's been done ever since. World War II was necessary, we were attacked. All of the others have been to protect somebody else, and we've lost a lot of guys. 50,000 in Korea, 58,000 in Vietnam, Korea. 50,000 were killed, but some hotshot in the archives in the down in Washington decided that because some of them got killed in overturned jeeps and so forth, they reduced the number to from 50,000 to 38,000 or something like that. A guy that gets killed in the war in an accident is just as dead.
He's still there fighting during the war.
He's a war casualty,
Mm-hmm.
and I resented that. Nothing you can do about it. Also, on the archives, 1,177 were killed in the Arizona, and suddenly it's less than 1,100. So 77 have gone into space somewhere. I don't know where they got that.
Yeah,
But years later, 50 years later, they're changing the figures.
it would have been different if they changed them within a week of an incident or so.
Yeah.
Because then you could be like, oh, we overestimated.
Yeah, because none of these guys were involved in the war, so what the hell do they know about it?
Let me ask you this. I'm actually going to ask this question of you when I haven't asked it of anybody else. September 11th seems to be a date that people, certain people bring up all the time. It seems to be a big, a big button to push for people. And on that day, they estimated that there were 50,000 people who were dead, and it turns out there were only 3,000.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah. So, do you find you find that that's a good thing to do for people to get them charged up, or a bad thing to give them a large number and then to decrease it?
No,
Just
it's
to
bad, it's bad. You give the truth. And the truth is hidden in World War II. Roosevelt, well, another comment. Before we got involved in the war, Churchill's son asked him how he was going to win the war, and Churchill said, we're going to get the United States involved. Made me believe he got buddy-buddy with good old Frankie and set us up, helped us set us up. Because they knew the war was going to happen, and I understand that Roosevelt, the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover knew about it, and Roosevelt told him to shut up and not say anything. The Dutch had warned them, so they knew it was going to happen, but we never got the information. And they sent the Army sent the telegram that got to Pearl Harbor at 8 o'clock after the attack had happened. No need of that. You had all kinds of high-powered transfer that you could communicate anywhere in the world.
One final thing. Do we think that that happens now? That they have information about things and they just sit on it and wait for it to happen so they can act?
Oh, definitely. As I said, there's too much secrecy. The president is, well, this one especially is full of a lot of stunts that nobody else would.
Joe, I've really had a great time talking with you today. I really appreciate you taking your time to talk with us.
Well, I'm glad I could help.
I have a tendency to monopolize things, and I don't mean to.
Okay.
It was very nice meeting you. I hope they get to talk with you again soon.
All right.
Thank you very much.
I'd love to come back.